Hello, my name is Hakon, and welcome back, all you fabulous fighting fantasy aficionados, for yet another riveting episode, I hope, of playing fighting fantasy as we go into the Chasms of Malice for the third time. Yes, indeedio. And this time, to see if I can increase my chances of saving the world, I've also brought a cup of tea, because as we know, it's the drink of heroes, and it's what you need if you want to save the world. And of course, in this book, as indeed in many others, you are the only one who can save the world, the only person who actually have the prerequisites, in this case being the rightful heir to the throne, and therefore the only one with who has the royal bloods, the blood royale, that can wield the magic sword, which is the only weapon that can defeat the evil being. So there you go. That's how the story goes. Very, very, very original and very, very lacking in cliche. Anyway, let's get started, I think. Yes, one more thing, of course. You may hear that my voice is still a bit rusty, which it may have been the last few episodes as well, but this is actually a new cold that I picked up right at the edge of winter, hopefully. It is -2 outside, but it still feels like spring, so I'm considering it's spring now. It is March. But I managed to get one more cold, which is why I didn't make an episode last week, which I was intending, but I did manage to get to my, which I mentioned last time, my David Suchet retrospective, which was absolutely brilliant, by the way. So, yeah. Let's just get started, shall we? So I'll move on to my desk view, if I remember how to do this now. And here we are. I've got my supplies ready for my journey into the unknown, and also sometimes unknown. I've got my book, I've got my pen with multiple colors, and I've got my character sheet and my very convoluted but hopefully helpful map, which will guide me on the way. And of course, I do have my dice, and just like last time, I will creatively ignore them most of the time. I will keep them available in case I feel like rolling something, especially when it's starting to come towards the natural end of the time span in which I feel is about right for an episode of Fighting Fantasy. 2.5 hours is roughly my maximum. I think that is plenty, especially when my voice is a little bit rusty. So, and yes, of course, and also the aforementioned cup of tea. Yummy. Okay. And I hope my sound will work today, because I am trying something a little bit new again. I've not been very happy with the sound quality of my last 2 episodes, so I'm trying to revive my old sound recorder, but I'm trying something new as well. So if you might recall, I had a problem with my old, I'm not sure if I mentioned that on this in this particular video series. I think I may have done. I had an old sound recorder. I've had it now since 14 years, 15 years almost, and it seemed to struggle to take the plug-in power. I mean, it works on batteries, but it eats batteries like there's no tomorrow. But to make it work on plug-in power, but I seem to have made it work now, and hopefully it will stay working. And I'll just see how that goes. So hopefully the battery won't drop on me and the sound will disappear, because that would be kind of rubbish, because I would have to re-record the episode. I should just keep a track on my screen now. I have a little audio meter that tells me that sound is indeed coming in and being recorded, and I will have to keep an eye out for whether that disappears or not. So yeah, right. Let's just get started with this. The Chasms of Malice. Let's see. So, in this story, there's a sort of a background. There's quite a bit of world building in this one, which I really like, because there is world building in this which is not needed for the story, which is exactly what it should be. So, so this happens in the kingdom of Gorak, or what used to be a kingdom, I suppose, because in a way there hasn't been a king for a really long time, because, well, there's been sort of like a steward, like Steward of Gondor kind of thing. So there's might be some inspiration from Lord of the Rings there. This is like Return of the King, fighting fantasy version, except the king has to single-handedly defeat some evil beings who's trying to mess up the world, of course. I'll just read the background, why not? So, Gorak, it says here, is a minor kingdom situated between the rivers Dart and Daga, tributaries of the river Swordflow. Gorak was founded by Tancred the Magnificent after his adventures with his brother Orguz in the Dark Chasms. The kingdom was to be the gateway between the area of Kul and the caverns, chasms, and tunnels of the Gadon people. Gorak has been without a monarch for many years and has been governed by the Lord's Ridermark. Gadon, or Field Brethren, the Gadon people, are originally from southwest Kul. They migrated to the deep chasms for no known reason, although some authorities claim religious persecution, and created their own culture. They began to give birth to blind babies soon after constructing their complex system of tunnels. Their other senses were greatly enhanced, and they became masters of the dark. The Gadon Knights, the sense warriors, are supreme fighters in the dark. They are rarely to be seen in the toplands, as they call Kul, since the time of Tancred the Magnificent. And this is an excerpt from the Treatise on the Kingdoms of Southwest Kul by Ignatius Pomfret. And here's a quote again. In that year did we halt the malice that was afflicting our kingdom, but at great cost. We lost our beloved brother Orguz to the evil, and in a mighty struggle we cast him into the dark chasms, and did entrust the noble Gadon warriors to guard him and his Kudam spawn for all eternity. The great seals were bound to the true shield and placed in the darkest vaults of Gorak Keep. Pray God that none will have to... ... Fragment from the Annals and Histories of Tancred the Magnificent, King of Gorak. So, here we are. While flying in the guise of a hawk over southwest Kul, on his way to the gathering of the Mage Order, the wizard Astragal is summoned by the Lord Ridermark, regent of Gorak, to investigate the sudden change in the fortunes of the small kingdom. Lord Ridermark explains that strange dark creatures are abroad. People are attacked and killed for no reason but sheer malice. The vital truffle trade route along Tancred's march is no longer safe, and the popular Aslef, leader of the stalwart knights of the Grey Order, has disappeared. Nobody can understand what is happening in what was, until recently, a peaceful land. Astragal assumes a worried expression and rushes off to consult the annals and histories of Gorak. The great dusty tome confirms his memory of the story of the true shield. He slams the book shut and makes his way to the deepest vault of Gorak Keep. By the light of a blazing torch he finds the great seals broken and the shield gone. Across the floor is a wide crack leading to the dark chasms. Astragal explains to Lord Ridermark his fears that someone has unleashed the malice of Orguz and the Kudam by breaking the great seals. If Orguz has the shield, he will be trying to break the spell of its age-old power. If he succeeds, the 7 Kudam will then have the power to multiply. First there will be 49, then 2,401, then 5,764,801, until they become uncountable hordes, and Orguz becomes invulnerable. Astragal emphasizes that to kill Orguz it is necessary first to destroy all the Kudam, and only a direct descendant of Tancred the Magnificent can then hope to stand up to the evil power of Orguz himself. Lord Ridermark tells Astragal that Tancred's line of descendants ended many ages ago. Astragal ignores the remark and pulls out the crystal of Baria, which shows him the way to the blood heir of Tancred the Magnificent. Astragal finds you working in the under kitchens as third assistant rabbit skinner. He grabs you, and before you have had the chance to wipe your hands, whisks you away to the vaults. He stands you in the middle of a dusty room and whispers some strange incantations. You stare in wonder as a sword rises from the dirt and lodges itself firmly in your hand. Astragal stands back and proclaims you Tancred's heir. Astragal explains the quest for the shield that no other may undertake. No other can strike fear into the heart of Orguz or wield the shining sword. He also warns you about a traitor in Gorak. You must be on your guard at all times, especially when you return. You strap on plain leather armor and a simple cloak. Astragal announces that he has no potions with him to help you in your quest. Instead, he picks up a small cat and passes it to you. This is Tabisha the Bazook, from the line of the cat goddesses. She will stay close to you and help in your quest. Use her cautiously and wisely. 9 times, no more. Now, there is no time to lose. He urges you on to the deep chasm in the Great Vault. Turn to 1. Right. You leap into the darkness and land on a rocky slope. It is very dark. Looking up at the hole, you see the wizard Astragal waving to you and saying, "Remember that you are Tancred's heir, and, well, good luck." You turn back to face the darkness. Tabisha nestles in your hood and begins to purr. At the same time, the sword starts to vibrate and shine. You see the path ahead. Several small furry creatures rush for cover. You walk along the rocky tunnel for a long time until it opens out into a larger cavern. You find 3 exits. Which one will you take? The one on the left, turn to 50, a narrow crack in the middle, or a wider crack on the right, which drops down almost vertically. Right, so now we are back in the game, and let's see, what have we done before at this point in the story. Excuse me. Yes. Before I have gone left, in which case you have a little circuit and you also get back to the one in the middle. So it's the one on the right I haven't done before. So this is the one I should try now, is the one on the right, which might lead to certain death for all I know, but it doesn't seem to be insta-deaths in this one. Most deaths are after something else happening, usually a roll of the dice. Now there are some special rules in this one. We'll get back to that when I get to it, because that's when I probably will ignore some of it. So 302, we go right, and this goes quite steep downhill, and it says here, you slither and slide down the rocky slope and then land with a splash in a puddle close to a rushing river. The water is very cold, and of course this writer, as you may have noticed, uses the word very, very often. To your left there is a narrow path. Do you travel in the direction of the flow, or do you go upstream? So, right, so we have... Let's just, yeah. Now, of course, there's no room now for me to map this. Now, what I did last time was I did black for one playthrough, blue for another one. Of course, now I don't have any more colors. Red means danger. I don't want to use red unless it is sort of do not do this, which is how I mark the red. I'm going to go with black again, I think. Or maybe blue again. I'll go with blue again. Okay, as my main color now. So we've got 2 options. Upstream or downstream. Let's see, 2. Now, what I think this book will do, because it has been, I've seen it before, is that when you start getting on the wrong track, it will try to direct you back. So 2, 2, 3, or 1, 4, 5. So 1, 4, 5. So upstream or downstream. And of course, I don't know what direction that is really, but why would I? I would have thought I was very disorientated after that sort of slide down slope. I'm just going to go upstream, actually. I'm not going to go with the flow, as it were. I'm going to go against the flow and see where that leads me. As you walk by the river, the path gets narrower and you have to wade in the water. Your feet begin to get numb. Across the river by the light of the sword, you can see a crack in the wall and you know that you must wade across. You plunge into the freezing water and Tabitha jumps up onto your head. The water reaches your waist, but when you get to the other side you can hardly move your legs. If you have any fuel, you can use it now, although it would be wet, wouldn't it? To warm up, deduct 1 point from the fuel box, otherwise deduct 4 stamina points. Turn to 253. Now, I have a feeling I've been here before for some reason. My question is this a kind of shortcut to somewhere else in the game? I'm just wondering if it is and where that would be and whether this is... It just feels so familiar. Surely that can't be. No, I can't see anything that would be... Oh yes, 253. Oh, hang on. Yeah, okay, so this actually goes back to 253 again, which is this one. Which means that this way is also pointless, and that really it's the going on the left here that probably is... Oh, that's the 145 up there as well. Okay, so... Okay, we got it now. So... That's why it looks familiar. It's because 302 is up here as well. So... I knew this looked really, really familiar. So 302, so that is there. And then we have... Okay. Okay. Right. So that is basically just the shortcut to go to 253. At the moment, it looks like this... Well, I haven't finished everything on this this path here. Still a few options I haven't checked out. There's also a way there to get skip a little bit here and go straight in here. But it still doesn't seem like it's absolutely necessary to have taken this route. What I know is necessary is to get to this point. That is an essential paragraph because that's one of the Kudam, the henchmen, the demon minions of Orguz, who you have to kill, of course, all of them before you can actually kill Orguz himself. So 253, which means I'm back here. So we're still going to be a little bit on known ground now. I'm just wondering if I should, I mean, this is my third playthrough now, whether I should just check out these little bits that I haven't looked at yet, because it's just a few, just to see if there's anything I missed, because otherwise I'm going to keep repeating myself a little bit more often in these playthroughs. So if I imagine that I go left and go to 50, just to see now what other things I might discover on that route that I haven't seen before. So so I go to number 50 and it says, so you enter the tunnel and notice shapes carved in the rock but can make no sense of them. You understand the vulgar runes, i.e. letters of a mysterious ancient alphabet, but these patterns are merely raised circles and squares. And I did find in my first playthrough a place where somebody actually explains how those work. Set in blocks. You travel down the sloping path, which eventually ends in the larger tunnel that has 2 deep ruts worn along its visible length. You guess that many carts used this route in years gone by. Do you choose to turn left along the tunnel, or will you go right? So this is where there's an option I haven't taken, which is to turn right, 135. I'll just see now what happens there. You walk along the tunnel for a long time. Suddenly you kick something that makes a metallic noise. The shining sword helps you find the object, a metal collar with strange runes inscribed on it. It is hinged and open. Do you try it or inspect it further? Now this is one of those slave collars, and I know this because I've encountered these, of course, many times now in my playthroughs. And if I put this on, that means I'll be trapped and become a slave of the orcs, I suppose. That yeah. So I know I definitely should not do that. Now, is there room now to? So I put the option up here. So this is. Let's see. Am I within shot? No, just move a little bit further to the right. There we are. That's better. So we have 221 or 193. So try or examine. Inspect, it says. Yeah, well, examine. I was sort of used to in the old days when you played these text adventure games on the Commodore 64. The usual standard keyword for the parser was examine when you wanted to have a look at an item. So examine color, you would say, or exa color. Because obviously the parser would only be able to read 3 letters, so it would ignore everything after that. So it didn't matter if you wrote exact or examine or exa, exactly the same thing. 193. As you are inspecting the collar, you hear shouting and cursing. Soon you see torches in the distance. I'm just double checking now. This is not one of the... No, I haven't been to this particular paragraph, but I have bumped into these orcs before, of course. Soon you see torches in the distance. You stand in a defensive niche so that you can be attacked by only one opponent at a time. 3 orcs see you, pull out their evil curved swords and attack without hesitation. First orc, second orc. If you win, the 3rd orc grabs the collar and runs away. Nice touch. You carry on in the direction you were traveling, turn to 249. 249, surely, yes, I do have 249 already, so that is up here. Let's see, and this is a, let's see, 6, 5, and 7, 6. Just out of curiosity now, what happens if you wear the collar? I'm never going to do that because it seems like such a bad idea. As you snap the clip shut on the collar, you see 2 red eyes in your mind. You drop the sword and Tabasha jumps off your shoulder. In your mind, you hear an evil voice. How do you know it's evil? Who are you? You are not Gadon or Dwarf. Ah, Toplander. You want a shield? Well, come and get it, Blood Heir of Tancred. I want to see you. Stay there. My servants are coming to guide you. You cannot move, but know that you must. The power of Oguz is not as strong here, and you have a chance to resist. Oh, that's part of the quotation. You cannot move, but know that you must. The power of Oguz is not as strong here, and you have a chance to resist his mind. Test your luck. If you are lucky, you win the struggle and manage to rip the collar off. Turn to 193, which is the same as the examine paragraph. If you are unlucky, you are found by 4 orcs, who immediately hit you over the head. They then proceed to squabble over who should have the collar and the reward that goes with it. Turn to 123, which brings you over here. It looks like, regardless of what you do, you are going to end up, well, either in the middle here or in this bit over here. Now, you do really want to kill the Kudams, so you do need to get to this point here with... anyway, so actually at the moment, this is actually a correct path. and it looks like almost always lead to this place where you find your first Kudam. So structurally, of course, this game is actually made in a way that makes it easier to find the right path, and you have actually several varieties of paths that are correct, which is a good thing. It shouldn't just be one single correct path, and if you stray from it just for 1 second, then that's you done for. That's not very good. Okay. So it seems like a very good structure for a game book, actually. I'm quite liking that as well. So there's a good structure and a good world building, which makes, of course, a good atmosphere and immersion into the story. Yeah. You wake up in the back of a creaking cart, trussed up and with the dwarves, and of course the cart, that goes back to the reference earlier about when you walked into the cave and you saw these marks in the ground where lots of carts would have passed. So it sort of ties together, which is good. Trussed up and with a dwarf's foot sticking in your face. You look around and see 4 other bundles in the cart. 2 orcs sit at the front, arguing and occasionally scratching at each other. Behind the cart, you can just see a group of exhausted trolls trying to keep up. I can't see why trolls would struggle to keep up with a cart. I mean, all trolls are big. They have long legs. They have long strides. They should find it very easy to keep up. Anyway, you also see your sword stuck in a barrel near the orcs. As you stare, the sword begins to vibrate and moves out of the barrel towards you. Do you want to attempt an escape now, or wait and prepare yourself? Now, I know that if I don't escape, that's when I meet the Kudam that I need to kill in order to win the game. So I'm wondering what happens if you try to escape. So let's just do this now. I want to do a few sort of out of curiosity choices now, which isn't my official choice in this manner. In this particular situation, I would actually just let myself be taken away because I know that is the correct thing to do. But let's just, for curiosity's sake, see what happens if you try to escape. The sword comes to your hand, and you manage to cut your bonds as the orcs turn around and pull out their scimitars and daggers. You prepare to fight them, but suddenly an arrow hits you in the arm. It seems to be tipped with a strange narcotic. You fall over. One of the orcs kicks you and ties you up again. Deduct 1 skill point and 4 stamina points, turn to 280. So basically, your escape attempt doesn't work, and you get -1 skill, -4 stamina, and you end up in the same place. So again, you are being directed in the right direction of where you have to go at this point. So very few routes then. It's only 2 routes really that lead to away from meeting this first Kudam, it looks like, which then would have to be the wrong way. But I'm wondering, there were other things on this particular route that I found the first time that seem essential, like learning how to read these little dot blocks, which is a binary kind of system. So I'm wondering, how do I get back to... So at some point here, I'll have to get back to this bit. So I'm thinking maybe one of these choices after the fight with the Kudam brings me back to this path, which I took the first time. So, but there seems to be more crossovers between paths and in different places. So instead of your usual basic adventure structure is, of course, you have sort of choke points, and then you have path leading off, path leading off, path leading off, and then you have another choke point. In this one, it's a bit more convoluted, so you have like this kind of thing going on. Which is much better, I think, and more interesting, and harder to map as well. Harder to design as a map too, I suppose, which is why a lot of the fighting fantasy books use a simpler structure. Excuse me. Right, so 280 is where I go. Hi ho. Soon the chill darkness turns to glowing red, and there is a hot smell in the air. The cart stops, and you can hear a cracking and hissing. You are pulled out of the cart and see a stream of lava in front of you. There are 2 rows of 3 square blocks of stone raised above the lava. The trolls begin to measure up their position and to chant like Gorak school children. Block on the right, 1 across left, 1 diagonal left. Excuse me. They take you across and you memorize the chant in case you come back this way. Turn to 371. So I figured out how to do that when I left the other time, which is good. So 371. You are carried across by a troll. Then you are unbound and made to trot with the other prisoners towards a camp of black stone huts within a large cavern. Smoke rises from most of the buildings, and you pass the remains of a great gate. You are dumped into a smelly, smoky room. There are about a dozen dwarves and several gadon. After a time, an orc comes in with a bucket, throws some slops on the floor, and tells you to eat. Eventually, several orcs arrive with small metal collars. They put them on the dwarves and march them away. The male gadon are also taken, and you are left with the remaining gadon, a woman of dark looks, wrapped up in a black cloak. There's a hint in there, isn't there? Dark looks and wrapped up in a black cloak. So obviously she's evil then. She comes over to you and asks who you are. Do you tell her or keep silent? So last time I told her who I was, and then she turned into this Kudam, and then she attacked me. What happens if I keep silent? Just for argument's sake today, because I'm trying to tie up some loose ends here in my choices on the way. 1, 2, 6. You say nothing. The woman gets up. Her eyes open wider, and you can see that they are bright red. She raises her hands, and claws slowly appear, pushing a part of the old flesh. She hisses and spits out an order. Suddenly orcs appear and grovel in front of her. Put a collar on this one. Then I will know if this is the toplander he wants. You realize that she is one of the 7 Kudam of Orguz. As you are pulled out, she kicks at a rock, and it shatters. 3 orcs take you to a stone hut. Inside is a blacksmith, a toplander wearing a metal collar. He is beating out a similar collar, and by his side stands a goblin with a wand. The orcs tell the smith to prepare a collar. He turns around, and you recognize him as the long-lost Aslef, the greatest knight of the Grey Order. You remember serving him at the great table many times. As you stare, Tabasha crawls out of your pocket and up to your shoulder. The orcs are mildly amused by her as she stands there, staring at Aslef's eyes. Suddenly Aslef hits the goblin with a hammer, and in one swift movement cuts your bonds. Then he sinks to the ground, clutching his collar. You take advantage of the orc's surprise and rush out of the hut. Do you go left, right, or straight ahead? So this is interesting enough. But that means that, of course, if you take this choice, you will not have killed the Kudam, the one that you just spoke to there. But it's an interesting paragraph because it has a lot of that world-building flavor again. So it would be a shame not to have read this paragraph as you play through this. So it doesn't seem like this is the right choice, but it's a nice long paragraph. It ties in with the backstory. It has a nice illustration, and but you don't get to kill the Kudam. So basically, in the correct playthrough, which is what I'm imagining I'm trying to do now, I would tell the what turns out to be the Kudam of Orguz who I am and why I'm there, and then fight her and kill her, because that seems to be the only way you can do this. Unless there is a chance, of course, that the Kudam can show up in more than one place. So if I miss her here, maybe she shows up again later, and only the fact is that it might be easier to have defeated her early on than it is later. I don't know. For the time being, let's just imagine that I have defeated her, because just for the sake of whether I win this game or not. Might have to play one more time as well, tie up even more loose ends. But because I know exactly where she is, I know how to fight her, I'm not going to roll the dice. So for all intents and purposes, we could say that I have defeated her if it comes to that, and that is the only thing standing in the way between me and victory, because then I would know exactly what the path to victory was. So yeah. Right, so where am I? I'm supposed to, yeah, so I got 3 choices here, and last time I went right. So I've got 2 choices here I haven't tried before. So this is where something else might be happening that could be really interesting. I'm going to start with the left one, maybe. I'm going to start with the middle one. Let's go start with the middle one. So straight ahead, 3, 1, 2. That's where I will go. Oh, okay, this is interesting. You run straight into the Chief Kudan, probably the greatest fighter out of the 7 fell servants of Orguz. She has no other weapons but her poisonous long claws. If you have not got your sword, use the skill and stamina shown in the brackets. If you have your sword, use the first set of figures. That's a nice way to do it, I suppose. Because it's not just about not having a weapon, it's not just about how good you are at fighting, or that means, or the skill, which is, I suppose, rather it's your ability to inflict injury on your opponent. But the thing is that without a sword, you also would do less injury as well. So the stamina loss of your opponent should also be less, and that is reflected here by giving Kudam Priankara. So 2 difference in skill, which makes sense, but also 4 more points of stamina, because each hit from you will do less damage. If you win, mark off the name on the adventure sheet. If you have your sword, turn to 2, 3, 6. How could you have your sword at this point? That's what I'm a bit curious about. How would you have? Is there a way to get to this point and still have your sword? Is there, in other words, is there a better path? Is it possible to get to this point without having been captured and having your sword taken away? And I'm wondering if that might be somewhere up here in that case. But for now, let's go with this. So this is, interestingly, of course, another Kudam. So clearly these are battles that need to be done at some point. So this is, say 10, 12, 12, 16. And this is, let's see, 3, 1, 2. Kudam. So it is possible here to defeat 1 Kudam and then another Kudam. But, of course, both those battles are going to be really difficult. And that's another thing about this game book. It may have great structure, a good narrative with, if you disregard the use of the word very, good world building. But even when you follow the correct path, as far as I can tell, if you were to calculate the probability of actually winning this game, it's going to be really, really small if you play by the rules and roll all the dice the way you're supposed to. So the book doesn't play fair. It doesn't give you a fair chance of winning, in which case it doesn't make any sense for the player to play fair either. I think if you follow the correct path in a game book like this, your winning chances with all the dice rolls and things should be, I think, at least 75%. At least, I think, if you have good abilities, it should be at least 75%. That's if you have sort of middling abilities, it should be at least 75. At least, well, if you have bad abilities, no less than 50. If you have the best abilities, it should be 100. If you have, or very close to it, and if you have sort of middle abilities, it should be about 75. I think that would be fair, but the books are so hugely inconsistent in your winning chances, even when you follow the correct path. This book, of course, unlike some others, does not claim that following the correct path may mean you're quite likely to win regardless of abilities. It doesn't promise you that, unlike some other ones, and some of them falsely do as well, because they've cut and pasted the introduction from an earlier book rather than writing it special. This one, because it has so many different alternate, or well, not some alternate rules, has not done that. So I'm not going to roll that battle, of course, because I would lose. But of course, if I keep playing and do the same thing over again as usual, at some point I would win it. So, right. If you have your sword, turn to 236. If you do not have your sword, you feel the pull of its power and make your way to an empty weaponry. You'll find it propped up in the corner. You take it and rush out, turn to 236. That is over here. Okay, so... So then one question remains, while I'm here, is what is at 167, which is turning left as you go out. You run into a squad of orc crossbowmen. They aim and fire. Test your luck. So, luck. If you're unlucky, you are killed by a bolt in the throat. Ta-da! Game over. If you're lucky, they all miss and you run back the way you came. Do you go straight on or prefer to go left? So this is where they lead you back where you are supposed to go. So you can go 312 or indeed 268. And this is a wrong choice, and this could be the end as well, potentially. Not an insta-death. Again, I really like this, that even though this is a really hard game book to win fairly with all the dice rolls and things, at least it doesn't give you meaningless insta-death. So in this case, it's a luck roll that decides whether you win or lose, which is far better than just saying you die. At least you feel you have some agency, which is very important in a game book. You have to feel like your choices matter and that your dice rolls as well matter if you want to play with dice. So, at the moment, we have 2 Kudams, and they're both here, which means that I have to get here. But it says it is possible, unless it is a continuity error, it says it is possible to have your sword at this point. And that's what is a bit puzzling to me. How is it possible to get to this bit without having had your sword taken away? Is it possible, or is it a continuity error that makes the writer write, do you have your sword? So I'm wondering if wondering. Excuse me for a moment, I'm just checking out. Because I think the most correct path is going to be over here in the middle somewhere, and then at some point it leads to this bit over here where you get to defeat the Kudam, but you get to do it without losing your sword. And also, then it's quite possible there are other items or clues or hints that might be there that will help you on your way, and therefore be the only correct way potentially to win the game, in fact. So that's my working theory. don't know where that would be, because at the moment I can't see anywhere here that seems to lead over here. So if there's a way that leads back over here, it would have to be further down here, but before you get to the maze. Anyway, I'll have to look for that next time, probably, because at the moment I can't see where that would be, where that might be. That would lead you in the right direction. But surely it should be possible to this is possible, by the way. I think I might have over here. It's a place I haven't gone before, and in this particular location it seems like you need the information about reading the blocks of stones, that you get information about how to do at some point here on the map. And maybe, just maybe, that is what leads you then onto this bit here, but from a position of sneaking in. And maybe there's a clue also somewhere as to how to cross the lava as well, without having to be captured. Because obviously there's been a bit of distance from when you were captured until you were taken to this place. And that distance, if you don't get captured, is something you have to cover yourself by going this way. So what I should be doing now, for the sake of trying to find the right path, is to go back on the middle path. Not start over entirely, but sort of, I know what happens here now. And I know this path rather well, so, and I know that I need to get to these ones, but I need to find out. There's absolutely no way I can win this game unless I find out, I think, how to get to this bit via this bit. So I'm going to not start over, but start from over here and see if I can find out how those paths cross. So if you bear with me, I'm going to go back to 253 now, which is just after number 1, and see if we can figure out how this works. So so this is right at the back at the beginning. Astragalus wished me good luck, and I choose the middle path. So you squeeze through the narrow crack and find yourself in a cabin full of old, dry, woody roots stacked neatly in the corner. As you examine the cabin, you find a small metal trap with a recently killed rabbit inside, and of course that's your expertise, isn't it? You are third assistant rabbit skinner. Well, not an expert yet, maybe, but you're getting very good. You have an apprenticeship, as it were, in rabbit skinning. You might even be a journeyman. And you take the rabbit, add 2 meals to your provisions box. I'm not gonna do any bookkeeping on these things now. What I'm going to do bookkeeping of is clues and hints and things. And some other wood. Now, there are other sharp tools and old skins scattered around the cabin, and you decide to leave by the only other tunnel. It says, when you have been walking for a few hundred paces, you hear a shriek behind you, and then the sound of pursuit. Okay. Oh, hang on. Just one more thing, as Columbo said. The very, very correct path, by the way. So, the very correct path is to first go left. You get a hint over here, and then you get back here, and then you go in here somewhere, and somewhere here you get down here, and then you get up here. So you get past here, you go down here, and up here. I think that is going to be the correct path. The hint you get over here, that is to say, is you have to go to the Dragon's Breath Inn, which is here somewhere as well, and they might help, it says. Although that's not really necessary to know that you have to go to the Dragon's Breath Inn, but it's not an essential clue, but it's a hint. So anyway, So 253, and I was... So across the chasm stands an evil-looking dark elf holding a large staff. Do you attempt to cross the chasm or stay where you are? If you stay where you are, you get knocked on the head, and then you get taken, and then you are back where I was earlier and you get imprisoned, as it were. Your sword's taken away, you meet the Kudam, and you don't have your sword, which should be possible, according to my theory, which indicates that the only correct choice here is to cross the chasm. So I'm going to say this is the right path over here. Okay. And then I think this here, because I've got a hint, must be part of the correct path. Then I think the correct path is here and then crossing over here. So actually skip this bit with the dark elf. But at this moment here, it is going across the chasm and facing the dark elf. The dark elf stares at you with glowing red eyes and fingers his staff, naughty, which radiates a bluish light. Fancy. Who dares cross midnight chasm? He shouts, and walks onto the perilous bridge. He looks you up and down. Aye, you'll be fine for my lord's slave battalion when you wear the collar. He begins to cross the bridge, but stops when he sees you pull out your sword, which you've already had out because it's your light source as well. He realizes that he has got a fight on his hands. Dark Elf 8-6. Oh, I put the wrong number here. 8-6. If at any time double 1 is thrown, then that combatant has fallen off the bridge. If you win, you cross the bridge and carry on along the path. Turn to 249. I'm not going to roll the dice now. I'm in pathfinding mode. Now, the path is very rocky, and sometimes the tunnel nearly closes up. After a long time, you begin to get tired and hungry. You sit down and look at your provisions. If you have enough for a meal, have it now, and add 4 stamina points. If you have the means to cook the food, add an extra 2 stamina points. That is fuel. If you cannot eat, deduct 2 stamina points. Turn to 10. So let's see. So this is eating. I'll just put that there. And we go to paragraph 10. You carry on walking along the tunnel until you stumble on what looks like a large claw stuck in the earth. Fascinated, you pull at it and are startled to see it move. The claw rises out of the ground, followed by another. Then the black, bird-like creature springs out of its hiding place. It has 4 arms and 2 wings. You cannot pass it without fighting. Griphawk. If you win, turn to 74. So, if you go this path here, it looks like you have 1 battle, which is the 6-8, 6 skill, 8 stamina, and then you don't have to fight the Dark Elf, and you don't have to fight the Griphawk, which means it's an easier path, and you don't have to eat to regain stamina. Of course, you won't have lost as much stamina, and you will get a hint as for going to the Dragon's Breath Inn. So, very clear to me, this is the correct path, and you get in at this point here at 74. Now, the big question today is, will I find how to get from this path to that path? Right. You walk down the tunnel. In the distance, you can make out some blazing torches, and as you get nearer, the tunnel opens out into a cavern. On the right is a stone building with small round windows and 6 torches blazing above the entrance. Standing outside are 2 large horned koyunlu harnessed to a cart. Just below the torches is the famous Dragon's Breath Inn and alehouse. As you stand there, a large figure in black cloak comes out of the building and falls flat on its face. Do you help, or do you prefer to keep a low profile? I've made a note here on my map that do not help. So I'm going to keep a low profile. You loiter behind a rock. Just then a troll comes out of the inn and tries to pick up the other figure. who is also a troll and obviously drunk. The drunken troll objects to being touched, pulls out the scimitar and slashes wildly. His friend sidesteps and punches him in the face. When he has dragged him away, you enter the alehouse. Go to 381. It is very smoky inside, inside the Dragon's Breath Inn. As you stand in the dark corner, a goblin comes out of a door on the right. He is chewing a large bone. He looks you up and down, spits, and then enters a door in front of you. You catch a glimpse of a roaring fire as he shuts the door behind him. Do you wish to go through the door in front of you, or prefer to go into the room on your right? Let's see, in the past I've gone into the room in front of me. Okay. And I'm not going to enter the room on the right. So today we are trying new things. I'm going to try the room on the right, even though it looks like that might not be the correct thing to do. You hide the sword in your cloak and walk into a... Don't you have a scabbard? And walk into a smoky chamber. In the middle of the room is a fire. You sit down at one of the surrounding tables and look around. As you get used to the dim light, you realize that the other occupants are all orcs wearing distinctive jerkins with the symbol of the mailed fist. So this looks like the one for the soldiers. You watch them swilling their ale and forcing food down their throats. A man walks past with a tray and it is shouted at by one of the orcs. "Come here, Gadon. More scorched bark. And be quick or we'll have your bowels for breakfast." The man is blind but moves with great confidence. Do you get up and go to the other room or stay? Now, it sounds like this is not the right room for you. It makes sense to go to the other room. Okay, 284, 284. I just need some water. Excuse me just a few seconds. Finish my tea. As you can see, there's a bit of sunlight today coming in through my blinds. Very nice. I probably shouldn't stay in this room. I think I'm being hinted at that this is not the place for me because they will realize I'm an outsider and I'll get into trouble. So, but for completion's sake, I'm going to have a little look and see what happens if you stay. That wouldn't be my main choice, but just curious. Yeah, this is a wrong choice, yes. Because what happens is the Gadon brings the orcs their tankards of scorchbark brew and then comes over to you. You wonder at his ability to sense you. He asks what you will have and you order some food. When he leaves, the orcs are suddenly very quiet. The candles flicker and you feel a chill running up your spine. Just then a black-cloaked figure glides into the room and hisses at the orcs. They quickly scuttle out of the room. As it is about to go, it starts to sniff and turns around to face you. "Toplander." It hisses at you and pulls out a scimitar. Do you choose to run or do you fight? So, of course you have to fight in this case. I'm going to put it here. 299. Is this another Kudam, I wonder? I'm thinking it might be. Yes, it is. You draw out your sword. You are facing a Kudam, one of Oguz's lieutenants, Kudam Geshrak. And he has 10, 12, which means, again, this is an essential battle. So this is, let's see, let's put it on the left here, 299. Kudam Geshrak. So the puzzle of this game, in a way, is not to pick up items, but to find the path on which you get to fight and kill all of the 8. How many Kudam? There were 8, weren't there? Hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. All the 7 Kudam of Urgus. So far I found Gishrak, I found Friankara and Churka, so I've still got some left. But I know where 3 of them are now, which is a good start. And that's a 10, 12, okay. If you win, the body disappears, leaving only the black cloak of fine mesh mail. Mark the dead Kudam on the adventure sheet. Turn to 2, 5, 1. So the question then is, does that mean that this was the correct choice? Or could you have defeated that Kudam in any other way, in any other place? You stand there staring at the black cloak. Just then, a Gadon woman comes in and sniffs the air. She is startled and appears to be able to smell the evil on the cloak. Who are you? What are you doing here? Do you confide in her? Or leave the room at once? And that brings us back to 225. So, that means this is the correct path. So, at the moment, we have here low profile, and going into the Dragon's Breath Inn, going into the room on the right, staying, meeting the Kudam, defeating the Kudam, and then you probably have to confide. That's also marked earlier as the correct choice. So you can leave or you can confide in the woman. 225, I confide in her because she is also a freedom fighter, as it were, isn't it? So when you whisper the name of Urgus to her, she shivers and tells you to follow her upstairs. She enters a dimly lit room where sits another Gadon. She introduces him as Bosak, her father, and explains your quest for the shield. He sits in silence for a while, blind eyes turned towards the floor. You are in great danger. The Dark Lord's strength increases every day. His Kudam now roam at will through our old tunnels, chasms and crags. The iron mines are being worked again by his slaves. You will need Gadon help. Look to the old man in the iron cave. Bosak gives you directions. So this is, so it's another hint or clue, possibly. So it's old man in the iron cave. It's what to look for, the old man in the iron cave. Okay, so that might be a clue, actually, because we're given directions, which means that if at some point in the book you are prompted for those directions, then of course you will know that the only way you rightfully can know those directions is to have been at this paragraph, which is what I would call then a hint. No, sorry, a clue, not a hint. A hint is when you get an indication of something that will help you in a choice, not something that is essential to a choice. And Bosak gives you directions, and his daughter brings you real food, not the muck we feed them downstairs. Add 2 stamina points and turn to 69. So 69. You leave the Dragon's Breath in by a side door. The directions you were given are precise paces and touchstones. You see the expected rough-hewn stone stairway and you begin a long winding climb. After a while you find yourself walking on spiky rocks and notice that the roof of the tunnel is covered with them. They look very dangerous. Suddenly you hear a crack. No, that was something like that when you were leaving over, further on as well. Test your luck. If you're lucky, turn to 347. If you're unlucky, turn to 197. I'm just going to pretend I'm lucky now. I'm just going to ignore the dice rolls. Yeah, sorry. For all of you who have been looking forward to seeing me roll dice, I'm going to just ignore them completely now because I am very excited to feel that I'm finding the right path. Okay. 347. A stone dart misses you. Oh. You prepare to ward off other darts with your sword. The stairs end, and as directed, you continue along a level tunnel. Suddenly you hear a scream for help coming from a large crack on the left. Do you go through the crack to help or ignore the screams? And in the past, it looks like helping is, in fact, the correct thing to do. Okay, 279. You run into the small cave. In the middle is a young Gadon bound up in a strange webbing. You check the cave. There are no other exits or tunnels. You begin to cut the sticky bindings when suddenly a giant fang spider drops on top of you from the roof of the cave. You squirm out from under it and draw your sword. 610. If you win, you cut the Gadon free and he takes you to the iron cave. There are 2 doors and he tells you to take the left door. 2 lock points. Turn to 199. Now, at this point, maybe I'm a bit curious. What happens if you just leave the Dragon's Breath in? I'm sure you then get a completely different... you do get a very different one. If you actually leave the Dragon's Breath in by paragraph 43 now, you are taken again to this bit over here where you are captive and where you meet the other 2 Kudam. So it is possible to then of course defeat the Kudam here and then leave and then go down here and defeat the other 2. But you will have missed this bit, which I still think is absolutely essential. So what happens if you go to 43 is you lose 4 stamina, so you get stamina -4 and skill -1 again, just like you do over here. And then you are, see if I can make an arrow that is clearly going to here, over here, 1, 2, 3. So you're taken, which means that also if that happens and then you try to escape over here, you will have lost 2 skill points in total plus 8 stamina points, which is absolutely dire. Yeah. Okay. So that's how it ties together there, but it must tie together another place where you keep your sword. That's what I'm still looking out for, because this is an essential bit, I am sure, because you learn something here that you need to know for later. So, so 199 is where I'm going, where I'm actually going. And it says there, you push the door open and find yourself in a large iron-lined cave. Large books are stacked all around, and in the corner, sitting by a coal fire, is an old Gadon man. A book is open on his knees, and he is looking straight ahead, feeling the pages with fat, sensitive fingertips. He knows you are there. Come in, Toplander. Ah, you carry the smell of the cool breeze. I have been expecting you for a long time. The old man does not explain his remark. Habasha jumps down onto his lap and begins to purr. In the silence you are sure that the old man is also purring. Suddenly you see a dagger flying towards you, and before you know it, the sword in your hand has leapt up and diverted the point away from you. Turn to 294. The old man catches his breath. Yes, that is the sword. I helped spellbind the blade many years ago. He picks up a large book from one of the shelves. Now, heir to Tancred, we must be quick. You are in great danger. The Kudam are becoming very strong and enslaving all the other beings in the chasms. As the shield cracks, the Dark Lord becomes more powerful. I cannot teach you much of the sense fight. This I leave to others, and that's another thing, by the way. I got to a point in my first playthrough, I believe, where it was actually, or even in the second one, where there was a question in the book whether you knew how to sense fight, which means that I am supposed to meet someone who tells me how to sense fight. That is to fight in the darkness. This I leave to others, but study these symbols carefully. They are from the golden age of the Field Brethren, when most of these tunnels were built. They mean left, right, danger, safe, up, down. So, left, right, up and down, very obvious symbols, danger and safe. Also very obvious. Danger, just a big red blob, I suppose, or the equivalent, and safe, yeah, nothing going on here. The old man then brings you another book of secret ciphers, which he explains. Turn to 399, but you must remember to come back to this section, which, yeah. Ciphers, the old Gaddon counting system, are a way for the blind Gaddon to feel certain spellbound numbers, which, when whispered, will open ancient doors that were built in the heyday of Field Brethren culture. The secret has never been discovered by Orguz. Look at the sequence of ciphers. 3 rows of 3. Each raised circle has a specific value. So, so 421, yeah, so basically it's binary starting from the top right corner. So that's number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Let's see, a blank is indicated by a dot. Okay. Add the values of the circles to give you the secret cipher. Okay. Return to your section. So that's a number system. So that's quite easy. Okay. The old man brings you food, adds 2 stamina points, and tells you to seek the caves of Minusadur, where burns the heart flame. He warns, temper the sword that it may strike the lethal blow. When you eventually take your leave, you have to decide whether to head to the left or to the right. He couldn't have told me, could he? I mean, seriously, yeah, okay, I'm going to leave your place now, but which way should I go? No? You can't tell me? Oh, well then. So... Right, so that is that bit over. Although hopefully I should be able to get back to that now, because now technically, of course, on this path I still haven't been on this bit over here. I must find out how to get back there. So now it's turning left or right. So the right leads to very quickly to the caves of Minosaur, but do I need to get to the caves of Minosaur before I go to the other place? Is that far? I don't know how far in the so when you leave this bit, actually this is a clue to how to get there probably, because when you leave this bit here, you end up in this paragraph here, which also leads to this paragraph here. So I'm wondering, should it not be possible to turn back there somehow? I'm going to turn left and see if that leads me back there, because if it doesn't, that's a bit strange. That only because you need to... Yes. Yeah, this might be it. Okay. So the tunnel is long and straight, sloping gently downwards. Suddenly you hear screams and shouts echoing in the distance. As you get nearer to the screaming, the tunnel divides. Above each new tunnel there are some symbols. The tunnel on the left is engraved left, no danger, right, danger. Okay? Which do you choose to enter, left or right? So, so this is left 317 or right 21. You also see a small dark entrance to a cave. Turn to 99. Is that where I'm supposed to go? Let's check out the small cave first. You wander around the cave. The sword will not shine, and you can hear Tabasha meowing from across the cavernous gloom. You go to her, and she leaps onto your head. You reach out and feel the sides of the cave. You make out these shapes. Okay, so this is interesting. If you recognize these symbols, utter the secret cipher and go to that section. So this is, let's see, so it's 2 plus 8 plus 32. So it's 42. It should be, and that is safe, it says. So I'm going to go to 42. You will be told straight away if a door opens. If you do not want to go through the door or do not know the ciphers, there is another tunnel in the dark recesses. Turn to 317. Okay, so I'm going to try 42 here. Excuse me. Ooh. You utter the cipher and the door opens. Step in and it shuts behind you. In the distance is a dim light and you follow a straight tunnel towards it. Suddenly you feel sharp bites on your neck and shoulders. Deduct 1 stamina point. Looking up, you see a mass of fanged mice leaping off the roof of the tunnel onto you. Tabasha attacks with the style of a true huntress, but even she cannot fight them all. Throw a die. If you throw 3 or less, you have warded off most of the mice. Deduct 1 stamina point. If you throw 4 or 5, deduct 3 stamina points. You have been well bitten. If you throw a 6, deduct 1 skill point. You reach the end of the tunnel. Tabasha the Bazook follows with several mice in her mouth and catches up with you as you stare at the well-constructed wall. You are in a corridor of what seems to be an old fortress. Do you wish to go left or right? Right, let's see. Well, this is nice. Completely new path. 179,118. This may just have been a shortcut, though, to somewhere else. Potentially. I'm going to turn left. 179. You walk along the corridor and enter what must be the main hall of the castle. It is spotless and well lit. In the middle of the floor is a diamond that sparkles and shines. On the other side of the room is a long table, seemingly full of food. I think this might have been a shortcut to somewhere closer to the end, which probably isn't a good thing to go through. But let's just go with it and see what happens. You walk up to the diamond and pick it up. Suddenly it turns to dust in your hands. The hall becomes dirty, grubby and dusty. Looking at the table, you see a crowd of ghouls, varying in looks from the hideous to the horrible. They scramble towards you. There are too many of them to fight. If you know the spell for casting into the bottomless pit, use it now. Add up all the numbers mentioned in the spell and go to that section. You will be told immediately that the spell works. If you do not know the spell, you must run to the safety of the next corridor without being touched by a single ghoul. So, that's interesting. So, before you get to this point, again, you ideally should know the spell. Spell, question mark. You will need a great deal of luck. Test your luck twice. If you're lucky both times, you reach a corridor and the ghouls disappear. Turn to 207. If you're unlucky either time, you are killed. Your quest is over. So, put here. So, luck times 2 and brackets the end. And 207. Excuse me. You walk down the corridor and as you turn a corner, you see 2 small trogs trying to lift a heavy chest into a newly dug, hole in the wall. I'm just wondering if I should, at this point, whether I should backtrack again, because it seems that I've taken a shortcut. And at this point, I don't think that's a good idea to take a shortcut. I want to do the long way around so I don't miss anything, especially because now I probably would have missed the maze of Minos Sadur, which I need to go through in order to temper the sword, in order to kill the kill Orguz himself, and also I need to get through the Kudam. So how am I supposed to go back to this place from this spot? There must be a way to get back to that part in the beginning here where you can kill the Kudam. Because otherwise, because that's the only way you can, yeah, it must be, because otherwise how do you, because there was the Kudam on the other path as well, you have to be able to kill both of them. How do you get back to that point? So, and this one was listed as safe, this one as danger. So I'm going to backtrack and choose the one that was marked on the wall as being the safe passage from here, 317. Excuse me. After a long walk, you stop to sleep. When you awake, you see Tabasha with a blind fish lying in front of her. If you wish to eat now, add 4 stamina points. Otherwise, mark 1 meal on the adventure sheet. If you have the means to cook the meal, add 2 extra stamina points. So there's let's see, +1 prov or +4 stamina. When you get up, you hear the shuffling of many feet ahead of you. Hang on, this looks familiar as well. I feel I've seen this paragraph before. 317. Have I not seen this one before? No, no. I've seen something similar, I feel. Anyway. Looking around, you find 2 possible places to hide: a little niche to the left or a hole in the ground to the right. Ah, now this sounds familiar. Something similar to when I was escaping and I was hiding in a hole in the ground or in the wall or something. Okay, so this might be the right place to get to the other bit. Okay, so we have, let's put them up here. 290 or niche. Oh, I'm going to hide in the niche because holes in the ground, they often belong to some creatures or other. You push yourself into the niche. The group stops and you hear a woman's voice. Come out of there. You look out and see a hooded woman aiming a longbow at you. Around her stands a group of dwarves. One at the front holds a torch, and you notice that they are all wearing metal collars. Do you come out or run for it? So 175, run, or 49, come out. I'm just going to come out. I'm not going to run for it. As you approach, the woman draws her bowstring further back and the dwarves rush out to grab your sword. They look carefully at Tabasha, who begins to sharpen her claws on your cloak and decide to leave her alone. One of the dwarfs then pulls out a small wand and twirls it in the air while muttering a strange spell. You see stars swirling around your head and then you collapse. Turn to 352. Okay, curious, uncurious. 352. Okay. Right. You wake up inside a cave. The entrance has a wooden door and on the walls are 2 trapdoors. The dwarves bustle around you looking busy. They are no longer wearing collars. The woman brings you some food, saying, I'm sorry about that. Sometimes the orcs use Toplander squads in their armies. Her name is Aspra Smoothcheek. And she realizes that you must be important. The Kudam have been searching for you. Just then a dwarf rushes in and whistles. All the doors are shut, and Aspra throws you your sword. She asks you to take up a defensive position. You choose the door, the first trapdoor, or the second trapdoor. Well, she could have told me. Now this sounds like it could be the right path because these are people who are trying to help me again. So let's see, 2, 6, 7, 1, 3, 1, or 9, 7. So it's door, trapdoor 1, or trapdoor 2. I'm going to go with the second trapdoor. Yes. The trapdoor bursts open, and in a swirl of blue smoke, goblin guards rush in, waving evil wands. Have you the strength to ward off the necromancy? Throw 2 dice. If the result is greater than your stamina, then you are struck down and your quest ends here. Okay. So it's a stamina question and potentially the end. If your stamina is equal to or greater than the throw, then you survive. Deduct 1 stamina point. You rush out with the others. Turn to 375. So presumably these are different or similar. Let's see what the other ones are. Yeah, so 131 there's the battle. So you have to fight an 8/8. And on 267 it's a big battle. So 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 5, and 7, 8. So if you've got good stamina, the trapdoor number 2 is actually the safest choice. And they all lead to 375. Which says, Aspra, Smoothcheek, and the dwarfs all get away with minor wounds. They run fast and split into 2 groups. Aspra goes up a steep path. Do you follow her, or go with the other group that are slipping through a crack in the tunnel? I could have done with some orders. They sort of presume that I know what to do, don't they? Which is a bit daft. There you go. I'm going to follow her, I think. So 2, 9, or 3, 2, 9. Aspera. Others. Okay. So they're smaller than me, which means that they can go through cracks I can't. You bring up the rear of the group and occasionally stop to check who is following you. You see a horde massing at the end of the tunnel and know that you have little time. When you get to the others, they are standing by a fast-flowing river of lava. Okay, this might be the one. The heat is intense. You approach to see a row of tall stepping stones spaced wide apart across the red-hot flow. Aspera grabs one of the dwarfs and leaps from stone to stone, but when she reaches the other side, she collapses. You look closely and notice an arrow in her thigh. The dwarf begins to attend to her as you pick up the other 2, one on either side, and leap across. Throw 2 dice. This is the distance between stones. Throw a die and add the number to your stamina. This is your series of leaps. If your jumps are equal to or greater than the distance, then you have made it. If not, then you have fallen in the lava and your quest ends here again. So lots of chances to die. Again, so that's the 1, 0, 0. This might be another way across than the official one. Let's see. When you get to the other side, Aspera is pouring a potion onto her wound. She recovers while sporadic arrows land close by. You don't pour potions on wounds, do you? Drink them. And you all rush away. The orcs leap up and down and start fighting among themselves. As you explain your quest to Aspera, she tells you that the road you are traveling will get much more difficult when you enter the land under Oguzu's direct control. When you stop for a short rest, Aspera Smoothcheek tells you her history. She was a Toplander stock, but was brought up by the Field Brethren, and has since joined the band of rogue dwarves, living off whatever is available. She looks at the dwarfs who are fishing in a small rushing stream. They plunge their hands in and pull out large white blind fish. It looks easy. While Aspera is distracted with distant thoughts, do you have a go or let them get on with it? So still, not getting back to the other place, but maybe there's more to come. So I am going to put those options there. Now this structure is going to make my map very messy at some point. We'll see. So 184 or 65. So fish or not. I'm going to try fishing. Not having the skill at fishing, and before Aspera can warn you about the fish, you plunge your hands into the water, test your luck. If you're unlucky, you get a thumb bitten off by the fish, deduct 2 skill points and 2 stamina points. If you're lucky, you get a little finger bitten off, deduct 1 skill point. After screaming for a while, you settle down and let Aspera tend to your wound. Do not feed the fish. Okay. 10 to 65. And there's lots of options in this game as well to lose skill points, which is, of course, the most dangerous kind of injury, isn't it? I would never try to fish like them, says Aspera as she looks at the fish on the ground. They have huge fangs and half their body is our mouth. However, when cooked, they taste delicious. Soon the others arrive and they all sit in a circle and sing of old times beneath the mountain. Add 4 stamina points. Tabisha finishes off the bones, licks herself all over and settles down to sleep. After a while, Aspera begins to prepare for a raid and asks if you wish to stay at the camp or go with her to attack one of Augusta's provision carts. Is this where I should be going with her because it will lead me to the Kudan? Maybe. So you can choose to stay or to go. So we have here 2, 6, 5. Stay or 3, go. I'm going to go, of course. Sounds like more fun. Aspera Smoothcheek sets a fast pace through a small tunnel. After a while, the group stops and begins to climb up the rocky face of a cliff. They are sure-footed and show you all the footholds. When you reach the top, you look into the murky darkness and see a wide tunnel with deep wheel ruts. And this sounds familiar. Soon you can see torches in the distance, and eventually you can make out the group coming towards you. 2 dark elves on Koyunlu pulling a cart with 6 orcs shuffling behind on foot. Suddenly Aspera fires an arrow at one of the elves. Or shoots or looses, not fires. It is deflected by his armor and impales itself in his arm. He screams as Aspera and the group leap up. Do you choose to leap onto the dark elf or to the cart or among the orcs? Okay. As far as battlefield command goes, she's not very good at giving orders, is she? Because she's not actually telling me what to do. She's just taking for granted that everyone under her command knows what to do, which is fair enough if you're used to it, but yeah. So 86, 192. I'm sure there's just 3 different battles, again, that all have slightly different odds, but eventually end up in the same place. I'm going to go do the Dark Elf there. The Dark Elf pulls out a short sword and stabs you in the side. Deduct 1 skill point, again, -1 skill, and 4 stamina points, -4 stamina. You struggle with him, he drops his sword and you fight unarmed. If double 1 is thrown, the one whose attack round it is has fallen off the cart and is crushed to death under its wheels. If you win, you drive the cart back to the others who take all the food and weapons they can carry. You make your way back to camp. Turn to 1, 2, 4. So that's 1, 2, 4. Now, just like last time, I'm going to check out the other options. You jump onto the cart as Aspera leaps at the wounded Dark Elf. The others attack the orcs. The Koyunlu gallop off and the other elf swings at you with a 2-headed axe. Test your luck. If you're unlucky, he hits you and you die. If you're lucky, he misses and falls off the cart on top of his own axe. You drive the cart back to the others who take all the food and weapons, etc., etc. Let's see, so luck and the end. And 124. And then 332 finally, the orcs. You leap into the cluster of orcs. They shriek and run back, calling out somebody's name. Suddenly a stone warrior emerges out of the darkness. The cart rumbles away and the others chase after it. You find yourself alone against a rocky fighter. It does not have a weapon but tries to crush you between its arms. Stone Warrior, 7-8. That seems to be the best choice, actually. 7-8. Safest choice. If you win the battle has been long and hard, you look for the others but cannot find them. Oh, you continue along the tunnel, turn to 3-9-3. Interesting. Okay, so you lose them, actually, if you go with this one. And you are on your own. Now, I'm going to go back to camp now because I'm still thinking maybe that is the right choice. 3-9-3, that's up there, isn't it? Yes, it is. 3-9-3 is up here, which means that that cannot be the correct choice because you will have bypassed the maze of Minotaur. You will have bypassed meeting the 2 Kudan in the camp there, which means that that cannot possibly be the correct choice. So I'm going to actually put a red around that and say that this, in this situation, certainly this is probably the best option. Test your luck and go to 1, 2, 4. On your return to camp, all the plundered provisions are laid out and marked by Aspra Smoothcheek. All wounds are attended to and non-perishable goods taken away and hidden. She tells you that the tunnels ahead are very dangerous. You will find no friends there. All the Gadon who once owned these lands have been enslaved or killed. She stops talking and stares into the distance. You are given food. Mark 2 meals. Plus 2 meals. You say your farewells and are given a choice of entry into the lands of Malice, the Crying Spring, or Downdrop Caverns. So now the big question is, which of these is the one you want to go to? Which one should it be? So that's 2, 8, 3, or 3, 5, 7. Crying Spring or Downdrop? Downdrop. Downdrop Cavern sounds very steep. I'm going to try Crying Spring, 283. You are taken to a tunnel that slopes downwards. In the middle is a shallow stream, which you follow for many hours. The water begins to get hot. You can smell a foul stench rising from it. Suddenly the stream disappears into the ground, and there ahead of you stands a gate that blocks the whole tunnel. On the gate is a skeleton hanging by a metal spike. You begin to feel around the gate in the dim light of the sword. Do you start to the left or to the right? Okay. Left and right. 75 left and 3, 2, 3 right. I'm going to start on the left, 75. When you step to the left, a trapdoor opens and you fall into a pit full of sharp metal spikes. Test your luck. If you're lucky, you land more or less safely, deduct 1 stamina points, and find. If you're unlucky, you're impaled and die. Okay, so again, luck roll is quite harsh, this, isn't it? The end. If you're lucky, land more or less safely and find a cobweb door that opens easily. Turn to 1, 4, 3. Okay, so 1, 4, 3. Now, I'm thinking that the right place probably is 3, 2, 3. And also that is turning right there. So, because you start smoothing away the dust and cobwebs, you feel the following shape, and there is a number. So, you know the cipher, whisper it now and go to that section. If not, turn back and take the tunnel for Downdrop Cavern. So that's going back there. And this is then ... Okay, so this is 1, 2, 4, so that's 7 plus 8, that's 15, plus, it says 16, 32, 64, 138. So that's 1, 2, 8 plus 15, yes. So that is 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 1, 4, 3. 1, 4, 3. Didn't I have 1, 4, 3 somewhere else? I've not seen 1, 4, 3 before. This sounds very familiar for some reason. Let's see. Let's double check my numbers now. So it is. Okay. Make sure I get the right one. So let's see. So it's 1, 3. So that's 7, 8, 64, 128. Yeah, 128. Yes. 1, 4, 3. Okay. 1, 4, 3 says, you are in a room full of dust and cobwebs. In each corner of the room are unlit torches, and some rotting leather armor is piled in a heap. On the dusty floor you see small footprints leading from an exit north to an exit south. There are 4 exits in the room. Which do you choose? So it seems like you suddenly end up in the middle of a maze. This is going to make my mapping really, really hard. Where is this maze? I have no idea. I'm going to have to start a separate map just for this one, because I don't know where this is in relation to anything else, which can be quite confusing. So I'm going to just plop this down in the middle of a map here. 1, 4, 3, and then we have north, south, west, and east. 2, 3, 9, 91, 3, 9, 1, and 2, 7, 3. I'm going to start by going south. You follow the footprints into the southern exit. The corridor is very dusty, and the occasional furry creature scuttles across your path, leaving faint tracks. Tabitha chases a few of the creatures, but soon gives up the sport. Up ahead, where the footprints end, you see a bundle on the ground. As you get nearer, you see that it is a dead trog. On its finger, you notice a bright ring with a gemstone that gleams and sparkles in the dim light. Do you take the ring and put it on, or leave it alone and carry on? So 1, 5, 3, or 2, 2. So ring. No. I'm going to try the ring, see what happens if you put it on, because it could be a good thing, it could be an absolutely terribly cursed ring, like this one. You put on the ring and begin to feel dizzy, as though your mind is detached from your body. There is a pounding chant in your brain. Daktili, daktili, daktili. In your mind's eye, you see indescribable horrors. You must try to take the ring off. Throw 2 dice for the strength needed to tug the ring off your finger. If this throw is greater than your stamina, you have lost your mind. So stamina and the end potentially. And will be found by some other unfortunate reduced to a heap in a dusty corner. If, however, your stamina is greater than or equal to the power of the ring, then you pull it off, drop it straight away, and carry on quickly down the corridor. Turn to 22. So 22 it is. You find yourself in an old tunnel that gets smaller and smaller until you have to walk hunched over. Suddenly it ends in a chasm. You look carefully, but even by the light of the shining sword, you can see no end to the abyss below. You kick a large rock over, but you don't hear it hit the ground. cannot see the other side of the chasm. Do you take a chance and leap across or go back? So we have go back, 2, 1, 6, go back, or 3, 6, 3, leap. And this is also nothing I've seen before, is it? No? You know what? I'm going to do the leap of faith. I'm going to see if there is something special going on here. I'm going to leap across the chasm and see if I can do that. Throw 3 dice. This is the distance to jump. Throw 1 die. If this plus your stamina score is greater than or equal to the distance, you are successful. Pretty good. So 1, 2, and 3. Distance, that's too much, isn't it? Yeah. Well, it might be possible with those rolls. Anyway, I'm going to say that I make it. You are successful to 203. If not, then you fall to your death into the chasm. Okay, so 203. Okay. Stamina. Okay, 203. After a long walk, you stop for a rest at a comfortable looking rock. You are now embarking on the most dangerous phase of your quest. So clearly I've missed something again, and I still don't know how to get from that path on the left to the one where you otherwise only would get to if you get captured. Must be possible. You're now embarking on the most dangerous phase of your quest. Check your adventure sheet for luck, skill, stamina, and provisions. Check your abilities and any special knowledge gleaned so far. This looks very familiar. Yes, we have been here before. 203 is here on my map. This is after the maze of Minosadur, which means that let's see. How do I map this now? Okay, so that means I'm going to map this over here. Okay, so I'm going to put up the options there. Since I now know sort of where it is in relation to my other things, so I'm going to put this up here. So 3, 2, 3, 9, 2, 7, 3, 3, 9, 1, 91, 22, 1, 5, 3, ring. Do not try on this ring. And that is stamina and potentially the end. And then we have 2, 1, 6. Just go back. Or 3, 6, 3. Leap. And that leads us to 203. Okay, so now I have this bit of map incorporated into my other map, and again that means I cannot be on the right path. And there still must be a way to get to the correct bit that I need to get to. So, presuming for a moment that all this thing with these other people was essential, am I supposed to be here? Is there some other way here? I'm going to get stumped at some point, probably. I'm going to have to try to, at this point, to go back and see if it leads me any other way that can help me now. So, so if you go back, you can hear dog-like noises in the echoing tunnel, accompanied by gruff commands from coarse-voiced trolls. Just then you find a thin crack in the tunnel wall. Test your luck. If you're lucky, you just manage to squeeze through into another tunnel. If you're unlucky, you get stuck in the crack and are bitten by a hellhound before squeezing through. Deduct 4 stamina points. Okay. Luck, and then there's -4 stamina in brackets. Turn to 393, which is up here. Okay. What about turning right? 391. Again, you sort of have missed the maze of Minas Tirith here, so it cannot be right to get past here without... You have to get back further down. You walk down a dusty, echoing corridor. Head in the light of a few lit torches to see the dust on the ground disturbed by many footprints. They lead up a set of stairs to your right. Occasionally you hear a low wail. Do you wish to go up the stairs or carry on along the corridor? So, and that leads me to 22 or to 229. Okay, so I'm going to have to check out 229. I hope this is not too confusing for you because I've been jumping around a little bit now, or a bit sort of gone back and forth. You rush up the stairs. You run straight into a room where there are 2 trolls and an orc. The trolls are breaking the orc's fingers, as you do. They notice you, let go of the orc and attack. They think that you will be better entertainment. Fight each in turn. Okay, so I'm gonna... if you survive out of 1 luck point, you then head back down the corridor. So, again... You don't seem to have much choice in where to go. 8 plus 1 luck. And then you go to 22. So again, that doesn't seem to be the right way. Let's try going north from here. You walk along a smelly tunnel and hear raucous laughter in the distance. You come to some stairs and can see a room of half a dozen orcs. One of them wears a black hood and holds a red-hot poker. Lying on the ground in front of him is a dwarf. Do you wish to help the dwarf or continue along the corridor? Turn to 22 again. So all roads lead to 22, it seems. See 3 to 8, help. You leap down the stairs, swinging your sword around your head. At first the orcs are terrified and run off, but as you try to free the dwarf, they return. Even their small brains can work out that there are 6 of them and 1 of you. They surround you and strike at random with their swords. Throw a die. This is the orc that strikes. Throw a second die, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so if you survive, you free the dwarf, turn to 41. So I'm just going to skip to that bit. Now this is a very complicated adventure, it seems like, to find the right path. The dwarf rushes over to the stone pillar and grips it tight. He does not answer you or budge from his position. You leave him there to turn to 22 again. Okay. Which leaves 273. And this is clearly not the right way. You walk into the corridor and it begins to slope downwards. The walls get damp and you find that you slip on the wet flagstones. You hear an occasional cry which eventually becomes a distinct call for help. The scream comes from a heavy metal door that is bolted from the outside. Do you go in or carry on along the corridor? Turn to 22 again. So either go to 22 or 387. I'll just put that up here. 387. The door opens easily. In the murky darkness, you discern an elf, thin, emaciated, chained to the wall and whimpering for help. An elf, thin, emaciated, chained to the wall and whimpering for help. Suddenly, the door closes behind you and the bolt is pushed home. Now 2 plaintive wails will be heard crying for help down the echoing corridor. Your quest is over, and this is the first insta-death paragraph, actually, in the book, the end. So this bit all leads to the same place, 22, and then over to 393, which means you haven't got the Maze of Minosalur, and you haven't got your other two Kudam. It cannot be the right path. What is going on over here? 375. So if I go back to there must be a way. There must be a way. Okay, so there's one sort of major option I haven't tried here. So instead of running off and helping Aspera, Smoothcheek, and the dwarves fighting these people, I can stay at the camp. Is that what I'm supposed to do? I'm going to do that now. So this is back, all the way back, where I meet Aspera Smoothcheek and I get taken to the camp. Instead of running off and helping them and getting to this point eventually, I'm going to stay at the camp, see what happens. You settle down and get some rest. You talk to one of the dwarves called Mithlir, who tells you that they escaped from Orguz's influence by destroying the spell on the collars, but they still wear them for disguise. Excuse me. He stops for a moment and listens carefully. Suddenly calls out, "Batishk, Batishk." He lies down and covers his face. Before you can move, a large vampire bat swoops down and bites you. Throw a die and deduct a number from your stamina score. This is not how vampire bats work, by the way. This is just ridiculous. Mithli grabs a small whistle and plays a piercing tune. The Batishk leaves you and flies away. Then Aspera Smoothcheek and the others return. They are laden with loot and Toplander food for Orguz's own table. Turn to 124. So then we skip to 124. And again, we don't get anywhere. How do we get down there? I am a bit stumped now, which is nice. I like that because it means that there's a puzzle here, and I don't know how to solve it. Which is great fun. It reminds me a little bit of Creature of Havoc. How do you get to fight these two Kudam and this one both on the same playthrough? That is the big question. What happened up here? Just wondering, is it possible that this is supposed to come first and then we get back to this place? That is, obviously, that is the plan B possibility. Is there a way to get back? Okay, so I'll just make a note of these ones. Oh, definitely, that's the end. There are some other insta-deaths here, actually, the end. But there are some other options there. 166, 206. Now, of course, this is, yeah, obviously that's a stepping stone. So, of course, there can't be any changes there. Those have to be exactly the way they are. So, of course, you can actually, I know how to get the Kudam here. And then get these Kudam. I know how to get all three of them. But then you don't get to learn how to read those signs. Are you not supposed to learn how to read the signs? Are you not supposed to get this hint about finding the old man in the iron cave? Because that's, at the moment, seems to be the only way to get to all 3 Kudam that you know about, is to avoid this bit where you get a hint, which isn't essential, I suppose, because it just leads to this bit, really. The old man in the iron cave is the one who helps you learn the ciphers. You know, it doesn't teach you anything else that you need necessarily. But the thing is, you get to these places where you can only move on if you know the cipher code. Is that essential? I mean, it seems such a thing that would be essential. So at the moment, I am not sure. Surely you have to get here. So it's, I don't know, it just seems a bit strange now. There must be a way to, yeah, but I don't know what it is. No, I think I'm going to have to rest a little bit from this game now, because I need to see if I can figure out what I've missed and where that might be. That I need to, where do I need to go in order to find the right way through? Because I need to kill the Kudam, I need to go to the maze of Minosadur, and then onwards from there. At the moment, the correctest path, or the only path that actually would work for winning the game, is the one where I go to the Dragon's Breath Inn, I kill the Kudam there, I get captured, and then I kill these 2 Kudam, I escape from there, I get up to this bit here, oh, sorry, this, hang on, 144252, yes, this one here, and then from there on, which bit? Then I have to go into the maze of Minosadur, which is here, and then through here, and then I end up here. And these connect together here. It's not clear exactly which is the essential one. But I still feel like there's something that I've missed. Something essential has to be here somewhere that I haven't seen yet. I'm wondering what that is. It's is there a place I haven't been that I should have gone? I've sort of done most of the options down here on the first part of the map. So anyway, this is quite interesting. I'm just going to take a little break there for now and see if I get any ideas for next time, and I get a little freshen up a little bit for next time. Come at it with a clear head and probably less of a cold as well, because my when I have a cold, it makes my head a little bit fuzzy and it is harder to think clearly. I'm really enjoying this game because it is quite a challenge now, it seems like, to find the right path through. I'm quite enjoying that. I like the world building, I like the complexity of the map, even though it seems it is possible that the complexity of the map is not hiding a map that is trying to guide you along the right path as much as one that's trying to prevent you from getting to it, potentially, which is, yeah, I don't know, it's a bit of a challenge still. And there are so many places where if you are rolling the dice all the time with the luck rolls, and there's so many places you can lose stamina, you can lose skill points. It is a really, really hard game to beat fair and square, because the game book isn't that fair with you. But I'm really enjoying this still, and I'm going to look forward to playing this next time, where I might have to sort of skip around a bit again, because I need to find what the right path is, which means I need to sort of explore all the options in the beginning now that I haven't looked at, and see if I can figure out where these things connect together in a way that it is possible to win the game. It must be possible somehow. Unless, of course, which is also another possibility, that these Kudam that you defeat in the beginning might also show up towards the end, which I don't know for sure whether that is the case. If that is the case, then I know that the only correct path is going to be the one that takes you past the Dragon's Breath Inn and then to the Old Man in the Iron Cave. You learn the ciphers, you get those clues there, and from then on, and then the other two Kudam that you kill when you get captured are two that can show up again later. At the moment, that seems like a good working theory that may still be possible. So I don't know, but we'll figure it out as we go along. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it wasn't too confusing because I had to jump around a little bit. I have to find the right path now, and which makes the gameplay a little bit less linear than you might be used to and that I'm used to. But yeah, I just have to do it that way now because I'm getting stumped now for what to do next, and hopefully I'll figure it out next time. So thank you very much for watching, and goodbye for now. Bye bye.